back to Brian's Beat.
Big up the masses!
Assume the crash position. Hold on tight. Take a deep breath for a new kind of cartoon show.
It is
and comics collide. Now to take you inside and turn the pages, here are your hosts, Henry and June.
I don't really remember that show too much. I saw it a couple of times. Henry and June, don't really know them. Seekonk, 45 degrees. Mattapoisett, 46. And New Bedford, 47 degrees. And I want to thank SouthCoast Towing for allowing you and me to download the WBSM app for free. And that way you can listen to us in your car. If you've got Bluetooth, sounds really great. At least in my car it does. In just a bit, we're going to be talking with Dr. Karen Johnson. She is a sleep specialist. Going back to where we were leading into introducing Dr. Johnson, this is Drowsy Driving Prevention Week. As a person who has had more than one accident where he has drowsied himself behind the wheel and smashed into something, I can tell you none of those accidents were on the week from November 3 to November 9, which corresponds with changing our clocks. And so you can take it from me or you can say, I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. Either way you want to look at it. But don't drive drowsy. Now, I admit that's a lot easier said than done. But then I think that would be the case with anybody that nods off behind the wheel. And so we have this Drowsy Driving Prevention Week this week. So the authorities can come out and tell us, well, you shouldn't do that. I mean, here are some of the things. Ensure lights are in good working order. Most people do. If they lose a headlamp, they go out and get it fixed ASAP. Sometimes they don't have the money to get it fixed ASAP, and they still drive like that. So I bring this up because we're taking 1 week out, Drowsy Driving Prevention Week. Keep your windshield clean. Only for 1 week, you're going to keep your darn windshield clean. Please, give me a break on some of this. How about this one? Only for Drowsy Driving Prevention Week. Turn slowly at intersections. Don't do it any other week. The other 51 weeks of the year, you don't have to worry about it. But during driving, drowsy driving, whatever they call it, week, we got another week to commemorate. It's a good tip here. Keep your eyes moving. Don't just focus straight ahead. Keep your head moving. Tilt it. It swivels. Beware of glare. Yeah, that can be a pain. Beware of glare. Now, here's one. Prioritize getting at least 7 hours of sleep before hitting the road. Now, how do you prioritize? If you got to go to work, you're not thinking about that. If you're coming home from work and you've been at work for any period of time, let's say 6, 7, 8, 10 hours, how are you prioritizing your sleep then? All of this happening during Drowsy Driving Prevention Week. It was proclamated courtesy of Governor Healy. It was introduced by AAA. Now, I get AAA. They want people to be safe. They've got a financial investment in order for people to be safe. I get that part. But we're going to have Drowsy Driving Prevention Week, 1 week of the year, because we turn the clocks back. It's not like we're turning the clocks forward. And that begs a question. If you're like me, you grew up learning that we went to daylight savings time because the farmers needed it. It was, or not that they needed it so much, but that it was better for them. Do cows and chickens, do they know that the clock's changed? Do they work on some type of clock? I don't know. Daylight savings time was instituted back in World War I. And we did it here in the United States for a year. And then Congress stopped it. And then certain states tried to do it. And then in the mid-1960s, the Uniform Time Act of 1966 established that we would have daylight savings time here in the United States. Now, here's the thing. Not every state goes to daylight savings time. So if you are in Arizona, if you are in Hawaii, you don't have to worry about changing your clocks back an hour because you stay on standard time. Now, there are certain states that want to do permanent daylight savings time. There's a move underfoot here in the Commonwealth to have us go on Atlantic time, which is the closest time zone in Canada to us, New Brunswick and Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. They're on Atlantic time. We would go to that time zone. Do we really have to go that far? And so I was kicking back and I was thinking, why on earth would we want permanent daylight savings time? When the kids go to school this week, those that have to catch the 7 o'clock bus, they'll be able to do it, and it's going to be light out. Might be cloudy, but it will be light out. It'll be daylight. For the past week, if they had to be at that bus stop before 7 a.m., it wasn't light out. If we did not turn the clocks, it would still be dark. In fact, it would be dark at 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's just thinking about it as far as kids and school are concerned. And so what might be a problem for folks driving to work in the dark? Well, you could have a similar problem driving back if you keep the clocks at standard time. So I'm wondering where we're going to go with all of this. Dr. Karen Johnson, she studies people and sleeping habits. She's at Bay State Health, and she's also the vice president of Save Standard Time. She's going to join us for a little bit when we come back. If you're spending less than $20 a month for prescription drugs, great. If not, then our monthly fee RX service might be a good option for you. Check for yourself at monthlyfeerx.com. And that brings us to the Brian's Beat quote of the day. It's from Daniel Boone. all you need for happiness is a good gun, a good horse, and a good wife. All you need for happiness is a good gun, a good horse, and a good wife. Welcome back. Well, as you can see, we have plenty of sunshine right now. It's 8:19 in the morning. Tomorrow, we're going to have sunshine. Let's see, sunrise tomorrow. 6:20 something. That's because we're turning the clocks back an hour. The question should be, should we be on permanent daylight savings time, permanent standard time, or are you okay flipping as we do twice a year? 508-996-0500 to join us on the program today. And also joining us is Dr. Karen Johnson, who is a professor of neurology at the UMass Chan School. She's also a member of the American Academy of Sleep Medicine and is a renowned sleep specialist. Glad to have you with us on the program this morning. Hello.
Thanks for having me.
So you are also the vice president, I see here, of Save Standard Time. There are not too many people talking about standard time. Most of the chit-chat I hear, and even bills, legislation, deals with going to permanent daylight savings time.
Yeah, there's basically two ways to end clock change. The majority of Americans do favor ending clock change, about 65 to 70% if you poll people. But the science and medical community really want us to change to permanent standard time.
And there's got to be a reason. I guess, what's the difference if you're going to go one or the other? Why standard time over daylight savings time?
So the issue with daylight savings time is it has a negative impact on our health, our mood, on our brain function, all because of the misalignment that it has with our body's natural clocks, or what we call circadian rhythms, which stay much more aligned to the sun, which is what standard time is set by.
But how? I'll take your word. This is way above my pay grade. So how will we know? I mean, if we were on permanent daylight savings time, we would know that our body isn't functioning properly.
Yeah, so what our sort of body clocks do is they help us get up in the morning, fall asleep at night. They tell our body when we should be digesting food, when we should be growing and repairing our cells, when our immune system should be working at its best. And so these are set by clocks in every cell of our body and ruled by a sort of master clock in our brain. And when they're in alignment, we work well and we're sort of healthiest and our body works best. But when they're misaligned with the activities we do in the day, which are set by our phone or our watch, then we can't sort of anticipate those actions and we just aren't as good as doing them. So if you can imagine a kid who you says, has to get up for school in the morning and you say, go to bed on time, if their body clock is set late, they just can't. and we've probably all seen this where we can't, get our kid to sleep so they can have enough time before the morning.
So I kind of get where you're going with that, but if we were permanently on one or the other, would it make a difference? You're pushing standard time, so would it make a difference if we were permanently on daylight savings time?
Yeah, so some of the studies that have looked at what is the effect of having a later clock time, which is what daylight savings time does, show that we have increased rates of cancer, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, suicide rates, fatal car crashes, a lot of, outcomes that we really don't want to have. And so we know if we can be more aligned with the sun, we see the opposite. We can see that we do better in all those different health and mental health and safety measures.
Again, you're way above me with all of this, and I try my best to take you at face value. But I can't speak for anybody else listening right now, but I'm thinking if we weren't changing the clocks twice a year, maybe we don't have as many car crashes. And I don't know how to I mean, again, I know you're the expert, so please, I am questioning here. I just don't know if we could stop cancers by being on standard time. I think everybody would drop a hat and say, let's do it now.
Yeah, and again, that is what we do have data that supports. What a lot of people don't realize with daylight savings time is there's short-term effects, and that's what happens, right at these weekends of the change. And primarily after the spring change, we see things like increased risk of strokes and heart attacks. So if we kind of stop the clock in either direction, we would benefit from getting rid of those changes. Unfortunately, the bigger impact is what happens the whole year round. What happens for the time that we are misaligned. And that's when those longer term risks of, do we get more cancers? How does our brain function in school? So, for example, Indiana used to have part of the state on standard time and part of the state on seasonal daylight savings time, and they found higher SAT scores in the kids that lived in the part with standard time and lower for the kids that lived on daylight savings time. And it actually affected the population unevenly. The kids with the lowest incomes had about 49-point lower test scores versus 8 points lower if they were in the highest income. So there's actually a sort of disparity aspect of who is sort of harmed the most by daylight savings time.
So when we look at states like Arizona and Hawaii, since they don't change the clocks except on the Navajo reservation, well, are we seeing anything about their test scores compared to folks throughout the country?
So unfortunately, we haven't had enough studies, so I can't comment exactly on that. Another place in the world that tried permanent daylight savings time for 3 years before it was unpopular, they switched then afterwards to permanent standard time, and they found lower rates of seasonal depression on permanent standard time. They found the highest rates when they were on permanent daylight savings time and rates in the middle when they were on seasonal daylight savings time. So it really goes along with all the data that we have that suggests that being more aligned with the clock for the longest time of the year is better.
Dr. Karen Johnson is our guest. She is a sleep specialist, and she is also the vice president of Save Standard Time. If you've got all this data, why do we have Senator Marco Rubio, Senator Ed Markey pushing permanent daylight savings time?
I think people have this emotional connection to daylight savings time. It's really connected to when the days are longer. So people in their mind connect daylight savings time to summer. But I can assure you, if we move daylight savings time to the winter, the days are still short. There's still just not enough light to go around. And what we find is that when you combine short days with misalignment of the clock, that's when we're at the worst. And that's why in 1974, the last time we tried permanent daylight savings time, it quickly became really unpopular, and they removed it within the year.
I was around in 74. I graduated high school in 74. I don't remember ever being on permanent daylight savings time.
Yep, that was a dark winter. That just in January that year, 9 kids were killed at their bus stops with the dark winter mornings. If we went to permanent daylight savings time in Massachusetts, we'd have 2 months with the sun rising after 8 a.m.
That seems to be a major problem with me. I've read stories about people driving home when it's dark, and that's not good. But it seems to me that kids walking to the bus stop, standing at a bus stop, and, who knows what somebody is doing behind the wheel nowadays. But it seems that, I hate to say it like this, that they would be more easy pickings out there in the dark.
Absolutely. In the afternoon, you're not having as much standing around. And then the real, issue is there are benefits to driving in the light, and more people do drive in the afternoon. So that's why a lot of people think it would be safer if we had more light during that evening commute. Unfortunately, sleep and what our circadian rhythms are doing for our alertness, our judgment, our reaction time are even more important to driving. And so that's why if you look at parts of the U.S. that have that later sunrises and sunsets that are more misaligned, like we're on daylight savings time, you see 20% more fatal car accidents. So the circadian effects and the sleep effects trump any benefit that you'd get from light.
I knew that name Trump would come in somehow, some way in our conversation. Dr. Johnson, you're here in the Commonwealth. If you could put a bug, maybe that's not a good way to say, if you could plant a seed in Senator Markey, since he is a co-sponsor of this daylight savings bill that, by the way, didn't pass this time around, what would you say to him?
I would say the Mass Medical Society, the American Medical Association, the overall science community has made it, very clear that restoring permanent year-round standard time is best for our health and well-being. We have a bill in Massachusetts, H3103, for permanent standard time that has bipartisan support. And we really need citizens to tell their legislators to support this. And I think if Massachusetts can do this and flip Markey and have him follow the science like he does on many other issues, I think we're in great position to make this happen worldwide. One thing with Markey is he started being interested in daylight savings time years and years ago, before we had this science. A lot of this science that tells us which time is best is really only in the last 5 to 10 years. So I don't fault him for wanting to end time change, but I do, it's time for him to change his position and come around to standard time and follow the science.
I say this quite often. I always learn something new when I sit in this chair, and you've blown me away. I find a lot of this still hard to believe, but I'm going to take you at face value.
Well, I encourage you, we put a set of short videos together that are available on SaveStandardTime.com that really break down the different topics of like health and education and mental health, energy use, and everything. So if you want a quick little primer to learn about this issue, that's a great resource on SaveStandardTime.com. And if you want a quick way to write your legislators, go to ditchdst.com. We have little voter voice campaigns that make it really easy to write to your legislators.
So I don't know that Congress is going to do anything about this over the next couple of years. There's going to be a new administration, whether it's a Trump or a Harris administration. There's still going to be a new administration. What can we do here on the state level? You said that there's a bill already underfoot. Who's pushing it? What are its chances of passing?
So Angelo Pueblo is a sponsor. It is sort of not too active in this Congress, but he is resubmitting it in January, so it'll go back to committee. So we all the more need people to write their legislators and tell them that we want to push this forward for the next session. And state action is really what's needed on this issue. Right now, 20 states have said that if the federal government allows us to go to permanent daylight savings time, that they will do it. And so we need states to equally come back and say, no, we want standard time.
Well, can't we go on standard time like Arizona and Hawaii without other states, saying, okay, you can or can't, without the federal government doing anything?
We absolutely can. Now, especially in New England, it would not make sense for Massachusetts to go and New Hampshire, to not. So our bill is a pact bill, which basically says we will switch if Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont also switch too. Now, Connecticut's bill says we will switch if, New York goes too. So Because we kind of need this regional switching, we were asking for these pact bills that may not enact immediately, but they'll send a really strong message to the government. Now, other states like California, for example, have a bill that isn't a pact because they're so big they can just do it on their own. So if any of those states, start passing these bills, it will send a big sign to say, the tide is turning. We want this change. And I really think it can happen, but it will take a while. But it really will take that state action. And it's harder to pass these bills because they are legal, where permanent daylight savings time is currently illegal. One other important thing to recognize is a lot of permanent daylight savings time bills are hidden as permanent Atlantic time bills. And so it's important to not just see the word standard and assume you have the right bill. You have to have a time zone appropriate. So we are trying to go to Eastern Standard Time, not Atlantic Standard Time, which is just a fancy way to try to get around the fact that federal
put
government
us an hour
doesn't
earlier.
allow daylight savings time.
I got you.
So that could be tricky. I have had legislators who think they're supporting one bill and they're actually supporting the opposite because of those confusing terms.
I got you on that. Hey, Dr. Johnson, I really appreciate you coming on the program. And again, you opened up my eye. The cancer part, the rhythms of the whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Dr. Karen Johnson, professor of neurology. She is a doctor, a medical doctor. She is also a member and I think a past president, don't quote me on that, but definitely a board member of the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. And what'd you think of that? 508-996-0500. I was thinking earlier during the week, why would we really want to go onto daylight savings time? But more, I think I was thinking more about the kids and standing at bus stops and being very dark in the morning. And if it's that dark in the morning, who really wants to get out of bed in the morning? I know that there are folks that have to. They're going to work. But I don't know that we want that for our kids. To each their own. 508-996-0500. I was on with Barry yesterday, and during our conversation, I made the blunder, several times in fact, of stating that Rudy Giuliani was making comments about garbage in Puerto Rico. If I'd done it once, we all make a mistake every once in a while. I did it 3 or 4 times, and I even did a whole spiel on Barry's show about it. Woman friend brought it to my attention. No, it was that guy, Tony, the comedian. And I instantly, it just, boom. And I said, and I did all of that, so now I know why Barry was bewildered about what I was saying. So I sent a message off to Barry saying, look, I'm sorry. It was the comedian that made those comments, not Rudy Giuliani. And he goes, yeah, I was wondering what the hell you were talking about. And I said, so it made me think about a conversation right here on this radio station, this show, last week, when a caller made a comment in regards to someone on this station, if I remember correctly, making a statement that was incorrect. And I tried pointing out to the person, we're thinking about so many different things at one particular time. We're going to make mistakes. And he said, yeah, but you should look that kind of stuff up. Sometimes you don't have time to look it up, and you think you know what it is. I was sure in that conversation yesterday that I was thinking of Rudy Giuliani. Now, Giuliani made some other comments, but I put the wrong comment to Rudy Giuliani, who, by the way, I think is really flying off the handle lately. But be that as it may, Rudy, from me, I'm sorry that I gave that garbage comment to you. By the way, if you haven't heard the garbage comment, this is what it sounds like from Tony.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
The speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
This is what our campaign, our presidential campaign, has devolved to. One guy at a Trump rally, comedian as he may be, talking about garbage and Puerto Rico. The sitting president of the United States, and I'm not going to try to guess his state of mind, he's calling Trump supporters garbage. I'm not a Trump supporter, but I don't think you guys are garbage. All right, that's coming from me. Biden went on to state that there's no place for that in America. I would turn that around and say, yes, there is, because we do have a First Amendment. I don't agree with the comment at all. But this guy, Tony the Tiger, the comedian, he's got a right to say it. And I will support his right to get out there and say it. I disagree with it vehemently, but he's got a right to say it. And President Biden, you need to understand that. 508-996-0500 to get onto the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Brian. Hey, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You are so welcome, darling.
Wow.
You know what? I just wanted, we'll talk about the candy roll bag real quick. So I bebopped in a lot of places and got that together. I just couldn't find the real trick-or-treat type of bag. So I said, you know what? I got a lot of shopping bags. And besides, everybody can use one, right? When you go food shopping.
Exactly. Yep.
And then the lunch bags, I said, well, I'm not very artistic. I am on real canvas. I really do love painting. But I said, I'm not good with this Halloween stuff. Wait till you see Ryan and Ken's bag.
Oh, I can see it. It's sitting right here.
Oh, my God. The painting I did on them is, drawing. It's ridiculous.
Oh, you have something inside. I didn't look inside the bag.
What do you mean?
So I see Ken and Ryan.
Oh, yeah, that's them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't look. Yeah. I don't know about a painting. It's a Walgreens bag.
Oh, yeah, no. You're a little back on the paper bags, the lunch bags that I put the candy in.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. I did a little drawing on it. A different one for each person. But, yeah, so all that. And also, I kept it on the healthy side somewhat for you because of your diabetes.
Yeah.
I wanted you to have some kind of chocolate and have some fun. And I thought Whoppers was a safe thing for everybody, sort of, too. You know, like, nope.
Now you're making me think of McDonald's, and not McDonald's, Burger King.
Oh, really? Why?
Whoppers.
Oh, there you go. Well, I love Burger King. I don't like McDonald's. But anyway, I just hope you enjoyed all. And I told Tim, I said, listen, everybody that doesn't like their stuff, I didn't make a bag for Phil Devitt. So it's like, what everybody doesn't like, just put whatever you don't like aside on Tim's desk, and then we can have a little bag for Phil. I felt bad about that.
Thank you. I don't know that Phil comes in that much anymore, but yeah.
I know he's so busy with so many different things, but he does come in early enough to do the whole, his weather and whatnot. I don't know if everybody else knows that out there. So anyways, what I wanted to say with the daylight savings time, I agree. I just don't think the kids should go to school in the dark. I think, like, if we could just keep it daylight morning, nice and bright, in the evening. A lot of people suffer emotionally they feel deprived because it gets, dark so early. Like a depression. My husband sort of had that seasonal depression. And I told him, don't let the clock rule your life. If it's 6 o'clock, just know it's really 5. Like, it's not a big deal. And you start gaining minutes, seconds, and then minutes. It comes really back fast. And so.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. When you say it comes back really fast, so does the half a year of standard time, and then we're into daylight savings time, and everybody's happy.
Well, I just think for people who get that seasonal depression, I just think just know if it says 6 o'clock because we pushed the clocks, backwards this time of the year. Just know that it's really not. Like, just keep that in your mind and go to bed as normal. Go to bed as normal, and I don't know.
Doesn't that sound easier than it probably is?
Right. Well, I was just going to say, I guess for me, it's just too easy because I look at things in such a different way. But yeah, I was just going to say that maybe it's just too easy for me. And I hate when I see somebody get really affected by it. It just really makes me sad for them.
I get it. But there has, in my mind, there has to be something else going on besides the fact that the clocks changed 1 hour. Something else has triggered off the attitude, the way of being.
Yeah. Well, I notice people hurry. All of a sudden they're going fast, and I believe this is why there are more car accidents. Oh, it's going to get dark at 4:30. I got to hurry up and get this door. I don't want to drive home in the dark. And then we worry about the deers coming out earlier. This is a true thing. Dawn and dusk, there's more deers. Now the deers are out earlier, so I can see more car accidents happening on the northern part of the state because of deers coming out earlier and whatnot. So I attribute the high rate of accidents to that. How much is the actual animal accidents? I don't know.
Maybe.
So there's a survey out there for that as well. Yeah, right.
No, we have enough surveys already. All right, thank you.
Well, anyway, Brian, I just wanted to say you're more than welcome. So enjoy.
I will. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. 508-996-0500. Yeah. What do you think of the idea of keeping it at standard time? Not daylight savings time, but standard time. That's what I said when I saw this big bag of candy waiting for me. All right, let's get back to your calls. 508-996-0500. Hello.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Brian.
Brian, I just wanted your thoughts on a couple of things. I asked Barry this question, and I'm going to ask you. What do you think that we're going to know who's president? Under 5 days or over 5 days?
5 days after. So, in other words, the 10th or before, or the 10th or after.
Yeah. Yes. What do you think?
I think by the time I come in here next Saturday, so that would be 5 days, I think we will know.
Okay.
Or how about this? A very good idea.
Okay. I think it's going to be over because no matter what happens, all the attorneys are going to get involved, and it's going to be even longer than 5 days, I think. But I hope not. I hope whoever wins, I hope it's overwhelming, and there's no doubts in anyone's mind, so we can just move forward. But I think what's going to happen is this. I think there's going to put more doubt. I think what one party wants to do, especially the Democratic Party, they want to put doubt in the system that we have right now. And if there's any doubt, and this is a close race, there's going to be talking again about getting rid of the Electoral College. This is the end game. They want to get rid of the system, you must put doubt in the system. And that's what both parties are doing, especially the Democratic Party. Because if we get rid of the Electoral College, we're basically at the mercy of California and New York for infinity.
Texas and Florida.
And Texas, well, California and New York trumps them. They got more people, so
right. But it doesn't. What I'm getting at is there might be a reason for New York and Texas to gang up, and Florida and California to gang up. I'm just saying you've got two big Republican states and two big Democratic states right now.
And I think the system that we have now is the best system. It's not the most perfect system, but I'd rather see 5 or 6, 7 battleground states than have 2 or maybe 3 states decide every election until the end of time.
And I agree with you 1,000% because it makes the candidates go to all the different states.
Correct. And we have to realize, it's funny because this was put in because in the beginning of the Constitution, the other states were worried about Virginia because Virginia was so powerful. Basically, all of our first couple of presidents all came from Virginia. So they were fearful of a central system, of a central couple of states ruling the country, which they were absolutely correct. What we have is the best system. What concerns me is that they want to put doubt in the system. Tell me why, Brian, we can't right now. All these votes have been already voted. Why can't they count them right now and keep them locked up? And as soon as they get the new ones, they just add it on, and we know by maybe 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning it's done. Why can't they do that?
Because you can't trust people to keep their lips zipped.
Oh, but there must be. We could probably do some safeguard system that we can get these things counted without the machine.
I think we had the safeguard system before we had early voting.
I agree.
We have taken that away. But as a participant in early voting, I say that. Hey, I got to let you go. Want to get to one more before I got to get out of here. But
Take
thank
care,
you.
Brian. Bye-bye now.
Yeah, bye now. Hello.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I am. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I like to raise a coffee toast to some intelligent conversation.
Well, yeah, well, so much for that. I'm sorry. Call back. I know he waited patiently to get in, and I hit the wrong button. But, I follow in Pittman's footsteps every once in a while, known as hitting the wrong button. Hello.
Meet George Jetson. How you doing today, Brian?
I am excellent. How are you?
All right. Remember I talked to you on the bus last week?
Yes, I do.
And I'm telling you it's going to be a Harris victory. And I'm not saying that I think that these elections are rigged. They want a lady president, and I think that's why she's going to win. And Trump's
who wants a lady president?
I think the majority of the people, honestly.
Really? Okay. Well,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know that. I won't say you're wrong. That's a new one on me. I didn't know the majority of people wanted a lady president. But thank you.
And then Donald Trump's been saying off-the-wall stuff, racist stuff, and I think people are getting tired of it. So I think he dug his own grave.
Well, maybe. I thought people were tired of it back in 2016, and that proved me wrong.
He alienated the Puerto Rican community right there. That was his blunder.
Was that him or was that Tony?
That was his little comedian he hired.
Yeah.
It's still on him.
Yeah, look, I'm not gonna say you're wrong about that, but it didn't come out of his mouth.
The guy is. I don't like her that much either, but I'm just telling you, I don't like Trump. He's a con artist. He's a fucking school.
Oh man, good night. I appreciate the call, but not the swearing. Thank you. Hello. Thank you. Hello.
Hey, is it me?
Yeah, it's you.
Oh, good morning. Yeah, I just called a little while ago.
Yes, I do. I remember.
Right. We all push the wrong button sometimes.
Hey.
It's a fact of life.
Believe me, I've been known to do that.
I know we're getting short on time, but we've got to all recognize that politicians will say a lot of things, and they will tell a lot of lies and kind of embellish the truths in order to get elected. That is a given. I mean, you can go back to and look at the history of every single president over the past, your lifetime. Each president, while they're trying to get elected, will say things that they may not truly mean when they get into office. They just, But the problem now is, what is Kamala Harris not saying? What is her history? She was known as one of the top the most far left of the squad, quote unquote. And that's not really talked about much. That she had a bail fund set for those domestic terrorists back in 2020. You gotta really look at her and say, is that really what we want? You can listen to her interviews. She doesn't really say much. There's really no substance to it. So you have to dig a little bit deeper. You say, okay, $25,000 for new first-time home buyers. What is that going to do if the person is making $200 a week at their job? $25,000 is just going to screw them because it's.
But
it's dumb.
if they're making $200 a week, then they're not going to. The $25,000 is going to do them any good. They're not going to get the money. Hey, only because of time, I'm going to let you go. I'm at the time where Pittman is trying to figure out why he went to that football game last night when he should have been at home sleeping. At any rate, Ken will take you for the next 3 hours. I'm Brian. Thank you for the candy. Thanks for joining us on the program. And remember, turn your clock